Welcome to Bulletcast, a bullet catcher gaming podcast. In this episode, we will be talking about Breakpoint and Project Over. The guests for today are our normal Discord guests. Most of you know us all. We got Iron Mike, Mad Payne, Sandy. Most of you have seen all of these guys, plus myself, Grandpa 8up, known as Marcus. But our host for today is Bullet Catcher himself, Andy.
Thank you very much, Marcus. And we're also joined by Ammo and this Justin 86. Thanks, guys, for being here, and thanks for Marcus for the intro. So we thought that it was only right to do a podcast. Actually, before I just talk about this podcast, we did do a podcast which was supposed to be episode 17, which some of you may have seen jump up for a very short amount of time before I took it down again. There were some issues with the audio. So what we've decided to do, if you ever want to listen to that one, we're just going to set it as private and put it in the Discord. That'll be in there. So if you ever want to listen to that one again, it was a military one. We are going to re-record it in a few weeks, but it will be in the Discord shortly for anyone who does want to go back and listen to that one. But that's been replaced by this one. And we're going to be talking about, obviously, the end of Breakpoint and it's more than a rumor now. I'd say it's almost official. Project Over, which is obviously going to be the next Ghost Recon title. So we will start off, I think, discussing Breakpoint. But it only makes sense to start there. Obviously, no more updates. The update that we got the other day, the patch, was just some bug fixes. It most certainly wasn't all the bug fixes. I did cover this in a video. There's lots of bug fixes that they seem to have missed or not done, which is quite frustrating. I played today and found some new bugs that I didn't have before. Even though I find my game's been pretty bug-free, I did have a couple of new ones. So knowing that we're stuck with them, that they're probably never going to do another patch, how does everyone feel about that? Like where this state of the game is now, it's never going to get another update. I think we should start there because obviously this is the game that we're now stuck with. Anyone got any new bugs, or what do you think about this last update and how they went out? No new information, 4 or 5 months of quiet since Motherland. Go for it. Anyone who wants to jump in.
Two things.
Oh,
I'll let you go first.
All right. Mine's really quick. Well, in regard to the bugs, just because it's fresh out the gate, one thing I did notice, it was probably the day after the announcement, and the patch came through and updated, the underwater cable station. It's up in Cape North on the west side of it. I went in there. One of the daily action missions was in there, and you swim in from the outside. And as soon as I got inside and tried to aim, I did the typical climb up the rocks on the left, scope everybody out, aiming down sights. To explain it was as if I was taking my finger on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. It would aim, go away, aim, go away, aim, go away. Regardless of what weapon, anything I tried to do, it would not stay ADS. The only time I could get it to stop doing that is if put a sync shot drone on a bad guy. As soon as I was able to get one, and now mind you, when ADS is toggling 100 mile an hour, it's difficult to put one out. But as soon as I got one on there, it stopped. It fixed itself. It went away. Equipping or trying to get an AI teammate or anything like that to lock on, nothing. That was a very new bug I had never experienced before.
I had that happen before the update, and I can't remember exactly when, but a lot of times for something like that, all I had to do was just log out and come back in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't gone back to see if it's changed. Like I said, it fixed itself the second I was able to put a sync shot drone up. But that was the first time I've ever experienced that. And kind of like Andy said, I've been bug-free in this game for the majority, aside from a few spots of falling forever through the world. I never really had any issues, but this was the first time. And I was like, wow, okay, this is very new.
I've had minor issues. I mean, I can't see some of the issues that some people have said, falling through the world. Okay, that's probably everybody. Getting stuck in certain areas or getting halfway, like you're sitting in stuck inside a rock and half of your body is exposed or something like that. But other than that, I really haven't had any real major issues other than the one Terminator one where I went into fight the last Terminator and couldn't see none of the walls. No objects.
I think a few people had that one, you're definitely not the only person that has had that. What's interesting that you just said there, though, Marcus, is that you said about the fact about getting stuck. And I did notice that in the patch notes, when I went through and did that video, they did put in there that they had gone in and fixed a lot of the places where you can get stuck. And that was the one that I was probably the most dubious about. There's so many places you can get stuck. I got stuck behind a fence the other day, between a grass verge and a fence, and it looked like I should be able to get out. But when I turned, he just would not climb up this verge. It was like, no, this is too steep. But I was stuck in between the fence. I don't think there's no way that they'll ever go and find every single one of these places. I mean, did they ask people where they're getting stuck? They didn't. They didn't come out and say, give us the main locations where people are getting stuck. So they've obviously gone through and looked themselves. I don't think you're ever going to fix it like that. If there are places that people get stuck repeatedly, they need to know where they are. I just don't think that's an issue that they're ever going to entirely fix. But,
and you're right. They're not going to, because they don't like to listen to anybody. And that's the reason why we still have the continuing issues of bugs. And that's absolutely the reason why. Just like now up there freaking at the dam. I was there today, okay? And freaking, over towards where the tunnel is, there's like this mountain and there's like this beam going across the road. Right across from it, used to be a cargo truck. He's sitting there with a couple of enemy. Now the truck is gone, but the cargo is still there, and it's on fire. And I got a picture of it. I'll send it to you later on, Andy.
But that's what was really interesting, is that, like I said, my game's pretty much been bug-free, apart from falling through the world, and that was after episode 3, Red Patriot. Well, I had that. And I had that for a few weeks in one area, and it just wouldn't go away. And then all of a sudden, it went. But that's been my only major bug. But now today, when I've been playing it, like I was just saying before we went live, I went into the battery farm, and I keep losing all my sound in there. Well, I've done that base plenty of times and never had an issue with it. And I even turned the game off and went back in, and it still did it. It was really frustrating. It's just done it every single time I've gone in there. No sound at all from NPCs, because there are quite a few in there. From the enemy, I can't hear my weapon. Nothing. It's just no sound at all, and I've never had that before. So
I've been experiencing that ever since they gave us Motherland. And that's the reason why I don't like the Motherland update, along with their other updates. I've been experiencing glitches, more so of the bugs that we've been talking about and everybody else has been talking about ever since Red Patriot.
See,
Red Patriot was when I noticed the most on my end, but within about 6 to 8 weeks, I was pretty much bug-free again after that. And didn't have any for a long time.
It's weird how, I'm not saying that you guys are, fabricating or any, but I mean, outside, like I said, for myself, I've been very fortunate for a 2.5-year-old game to not have as many bugs.
No, you're absolutely right, Marcus. Because it seems to be very user specific. Because I'm the same way. Everybody since day one would complain about all these different things, and that was never my experience.
I mean, I've
one instance.
I would have maybe the occasional, and then I remember one time up by Howard Airfield, I would sink through the ground, but then maybe the next day or two that go by, I can go back in that same spot, and I would not have any issues anymore. So it's weird. I mean, again, like I said, not saying that you guys are fabricating. I mean, I'm hearing it from not just you guys here, but other servers that I know of as well, that I'm a part of, and
right.
It'd be according to the servers of each game, or not each game, but each region. You know how you have like the East region of the United States, West region of the United States. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but look at Ty. But look at Jeremy or / Ty. He would have issues all the time, and then but when it was when I was in the game with him on the PlayStation side, I may or may not have issues, but the one thing that he always did was, okay, it's starting to get buggy. Let's start a new session.
Yep.
So
it happens every time when somebody drops out.
Right, but I mean,
if they leave or the game itself kicks them out, especially if it hard crashes back to the dashboard, you might as well just log out of the game completely, get out, quit the game, and then reload the game.
I mean, yeah, but again, like I said, it's just weird. I mean, I get the blue screen once in a while, but other than that, I
get a white screen.
Oh, you get a white one? Well, you're on Xbox, so
yeah.
But I mean, it's just weird.
Sometimes I get a white one. Sometimes I get a black screen.
I'm gonna piggyback on what Ammo said too, because I had that same ADS glitch around Shark Base. When outside of Shark Base, there's a rock where the drone flies above, and whenever you get on that rock and you get a ADS, it would constantly keep throwing you in and out of ADS. Yep. And the only way for me to get out of that, of course, is what 8up said. You got to close out your game and log back in. Now, I tried so many ways to get out of it, and I couldn't get out of it. One of the ways I tried was falling off the rock into the water, which all that did was make me appear inside the rock, where I can see everything that's going on around me, but none of my players can see me. The only thing they see is the blue diamond, above my head. So that's one of the glitches that I will piggyback and say that I've had the most, the most of, is the ADS glitch, and especially what Jeremy had happened to him too. Whenever you're sliding down hills, and then suddenly you hit a invisible wall.
Yeah, I've had that,
like
but I'm almost
coming across the bridge. Across the bridge. You'll be scoping in and out, like Ammo was saying, and the only way we can change it is get past the second to the last barrier. But what we found out was, Pinch figured this out. As soon as you go across that bridge, don't run. Go down into the crouch and crouch all the way across that bridge, and it won't do it.
But I mean, I'm almost expecting the invisible wall every time I'm sliding now.
Yeah, pretty much. You do.
Yeah,
it's always there, isn't it?
Yeah.
But look, I don't want to talk about bugs all night, because to be honest, we could do a whole podcast just on bugs. Which,
I think we did.
Honest,
I think we did do one of those.
So I did want to jump in. I did want to jump in your original point, Andy.
Go on.
Before we started on bug fixing, I think one of the biggest things that probably has annoyed a lot of people. Why wait 4 months to tell us that there's nothing else? They could have told us in November, after Motherland released, listen, there's going to be one more bug patch, and that's it. Why keep us waiting?
Well, on that
told us
point,
when they gave us freaking Motherland.
Yeah, that's what I would have done. If I'd have been Ubisoft, I would have said, here it is, the final patch, the biggest one we've ever done.
And then they should have closed out the story then.
And that's the issue.
Okay.
I think I've seen a lot of comments about that across the videos I've put out the last week or so. People saying, well, what happened to this and what happened to that? People were a bit disappointed, to say the least.
I finally got to resolve what is Wonderland.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I still don't know where it is because
because it doesn't really help at all, does it?
No,
at least you can now get the collectible. Whereas obviously, I mean, it doesn't help and it doesn't do anything with the story at all. But
they also did put in the collectibles for Motherland as well, the ones that were missing.
They did. Yeah, they actually finished
go
all
and
of them.
get those.
There's one collectible that I have to get, and I have no idea where it is, but it's inside of like one of the caves, and I've searched the cave 100 times, and I think I come across it every blue moon, and then I'm searching there for 20 minutes trying to find it. I said, forget it. Just keep going.
You end up going, no, whatever, I'll move on.
Yeah.
So what was everyone's reaction then? Initial reaction when obviously the videos started coming out from, whether it be people like me or others like me, or the media.
I kind of joked about it earlier when we were talking about the titles, but I felt like I just got broken up via text. Like I got dumped via a text message, because like there was all the, I don't want to say hype, but like you, Andy, had put out that video with the communication. I don't know who it was in the
about year 3.
We have a big announcement, all that kind of stuff, and I wasn't expecting, because I've learned my lesson, anything huge. But hey, something new, something fun, a new gun, new whatever, and then yes. Like, hey, thanks for all the good times. But you just told me, last week we had a date Saturday. What's going
right.
On? Do you know what I found the most frustrating?
I got dumped on while on a date.
Right. It was just like, wait, what the hell? I mean, because there is.
I got a theory, but I'm gonna wait till everybody else is done.
Yeah. Just really quickly. So the most frustrating thing I think is that, obviously, they gave you this final patch with the list of bug fixes that we were just talking about. But we know, and especially with having Sandy here, who seems to have a magic Breakpoint account, where he seems to get everything early and weird stuff that goes on in his game and all the rest of it. But like Sandy, for example, do you remember when you sent me some of those pictures of some gear that turned up in your game that showed up? Well, a lot of that stuff, we've never been given it. It's never turned up. We've never been given it. So they must have assets that they haven't used. Why not at least go, look, we've got this stuff here. Okay, it might be clothes and camos and things that people are not that interested in. But if they're sitting there, why didn't they at least go, let's throw all that in the last patch. Look, we've got all this stuff. Let's chuck it all in. At least people will go, oh, thanks for putting that in. At least we got some extra stuff.
They could have did the entire store like that.
Well, and that's what I was like, don't just cut everything off. Okay, so now we got the leaks of, over and everything like that. But leading up to that, hey guys, we're not going to put out, there's no more live events. There's not going to be any more huge
updates,
Motherland type
nothing.
Things. But once a month, hey, we fixed these bugs, and check out these new vests we just added. And then a month later, hey guys, here's some bugs fixes. Try this new gun.
I think
hey guys,
I think personally,
into the role,
at the very least,
I think
happy.
I think personally, what they're trying to do is wait for the last 1,000 people that's still playing it, and then they say, okay, now we don't have enough people to keep the servers on. Turn them off.
I think they'll be on for the considerable future, because I think what happens is that, like, when a new game comes out, a lot of people will buy that game for the very first time, and then who have never played Ghost Recon before, and they'll want to go back and pick up Wildlands or Breakpoint or whatever.
Yeah, but see,
they'll be on for years to come.
But here's an example of that also. Where's SOCOM? People can still go buy that, but you can't play online. Especially,
no, but then you're talking about like some of the old SOCOMs. They're talking of games that are nearly 20 years old.
Right, but still, you can still buy the old games if you still have the old machines. You can still play them, but you can't.
Yeah, you can. But we're talking about modern machines that you can play. You can play like, whether you've got a new Xbox, a new PlayStation, PC. You can play Wildlands and Breakpoint on your brand new, up to date consoles. There's no way they will turn them off anytime soon. Definitely not.
I get what Up's saying though. You know, I mean, one of the things they could have done if this is truly the last update, they could have done something to make it offline playable.
That would have been a good thing.
Yeah, and a lot of people, obviously, this is something that people ask for all the time and are asking. We'll get on to that when we talk about the next game in a bit. But quite a few people have said about that. But I do think it would obviously probably take them some work to do that. And I just don't think they want to spare anybody to spend any more time on this game. I think that's very clear from their point. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but I think that's very clear. I was more, if anything, a little bit disappointed in the message that was given out. That 3-paragraph message that was given out. I didn't think it was enough. If I'm entirely personally. Justin, you've got some really bad feedback coming through. That's it. I didn't think it was enough. I thought it was too short. It didn't say enough. Yes, it said thanks and we gave you these things. I didn't think it was that great. I would have done something a bit better than that. And I think by giving away, quite a few people will have said, what about raid rewards? They could have just dumped all of them on, given them out to everybody.
Everybody who's wanted the Coblin can get it now.
Even if they just put them in the store, perhaps. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do see the argument that there is an argument, yes and no, for giving away raid rewards. Lots of people work very hard and spent a long time trying to acquire these, and then they're available. But if you put them in the store, at least then you're not just giving them away for nothing, and then people can decide what they want to pay for, not pay for.
I'm not
trying to advocate that Ubisoft should start trying to get more money out of us.
I would say at least in Maria's shop, at least spend the scale credits, not real money, because if they're not going to update it, if they're not going to update the game anymore, why should I, knowing, give you any extra money?
Absolutely.
No, that's very true. No, I agree.
I've said from the get-go. I mean, I love Raid. I mean, y'all know that. I love the whole game all around. I know everything. I've been everywhere, that sort of thing. But yeah, I've said, even before any of this, I've always said, raid rewards should be a store buyable item. And Marcus, you're absolutely right with this. Like with this last dump, 300,000 scale credits for your Coblin, Maria's shop, something.
Right.
For those boss guns.
But not real, because me knowing now that you're not going to update this game, no matter what condition it's going to be, why should I invest my $30, $40, $50 into getting weapons and gear or vehicles?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you shouldn't spend real money anymore, not on this game.
Right, because you're not going to update it. Does it mean I have to update my wallet to you?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
I do believe that.
Go ahead, now, bad pain.
No, you go ahead, bud. Go ahead.
My initial feelings about the update that they did, and then at the same time when I found out about the memo that they had put in on the game and put across on Instagram, it really enraged me completely. I've been so freaking enraged. I don't even want to hear nothing about the freaking front line, okay? Because that's a straight rip from an earlier game that was on 360. And if you would look at the gameplay briefing of what Frontlines Fuel of War is, and then go and look at the last 4 titles that they had put out, meaning Ubisoft, it would enrage you as well. I put a lot of money on following Tom Clancy's freaking franchise, from the books to the games, and all the way up until the time that he passed away. The last game that he actually was going to be involved in was Rainbow Six Patriot, and they got canceled because of the kid getting shot by a terrorist on the first scene. It was canceled. What they did after he passed away, they had to wait, and then they came out with Rainbow Six Siege, and they did away with the campaign. They had to, because it was ripped from freaking Patriot, and freaking, well, anyways, just everything. How they freaking just ignored Not only Delta Company, but ignored everybody who's ever freaking played their damn games, to include the new people that played their games, and then freaking slapped everybody in the face with the 20th anniversary announcing freaking front lines, and then come out, what, a month later to try to get a little bit of retribution to come out with Motherland and freaking the 20th anniversary stuff that they originally was going to give to freaking PC, nothing to the consoles. And then we had to bitch about that in order for us to get it. You know, it's just, this right here, it could have been totally avoided to enrage anybody or to further alienate anybody if they had came out in an openly professional manner to apologize to all of us, in which they didn't. What they did was put out three freaking things saying thank you, fuck you, see you later on the next game.
Did you find any? Did you get? Hey, Mike, did you find any grease?
Grease.
Yeah. Did they give you any grease for the fucking?
No. But I will say this though, I even proved a fact about whether or not they had truly fixed any bugs before I even found out what the bug fixes was. I still have an issue with my Pathfinder class. Now all of a sudden, mysteriously, which I already talked about earlier, now I have somebody that's on my freaking Twitch account that's been watching me for the last 30 days. This person had watched me for like almost, it was like an 18-minute long freaking video I did, okay? They stopped at minute 15, okay? Well, anyways, they left. I got done with my little video, whatever, and went back into the game and tried to figure out some things, make sure I didn't miss anything of what I was talking about. All of a sudden, mysteriously, it's in my inventory, the freaking the protocol. I can add and remove my protocol from my.
You know, I will say this. I will say this. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? All right, guys. So you got the news that dropped out that they said they're not going to release any more updates for the game. They're kind of dropping it. They're leaving it the way it is, right? I do think it's kind of BS that they're not going to try to drop all the stuff. I know they got stuff in their computers or coded or what have you to drop into the game and just give everybody everything they had stored away for the game. Just give it to everybody. Let them enjoy the game for what it is until they wait for the next title, right? Well, also, you have to look at, I'll look at it. I'm trying to look at it in a better light, right? So if they're planning on Project Over, the new Ghost Recon title, if they're really focusing on this game, I think, honestly, with all the developers, whatever, I think they just want to move on from the failures of what Breakpoint endured. And I think that they're going to throw all their energy into this new title, and hopefully they're going to try to get it right. I'm not saying they are, but I think, we should all kind of look at it like, okay, you know what? It kind of sucks, but you know what? We've been dealt disappointment with Breakpoint for over 2 years. It's nothing new to us, right? And we've always said they need to release a better title. They need to do something more with Breakpoint. They need to make it this and make it that. Well, right now, they're probably in the process of making something better. Probably. I don't know yet. We don't know any details about Project Over whatsoever. But I will tell you this. With the Ghost Recon community coming together and, pretty much letting out their frustrations with Breakpoint. We also got Andy Bullet Catcher Gaming. We got all other YouTubers out there who are voicing their opinions as well of what they thought and what they think about everything. I mean, the feedback throughout the past two and a half years has not been as great as they wanted it to be. And I think now they just want to move on. And I think for all of us, I think that what we should do is pretty much cut our losses. We should enjoy what we got. We should, play the game, enjoy the game until this next title comes out, and see if Ubisoft can show a little bit of redemption. See if that they can get that redemption back by putting themselves back in a good light for all of us Ghost Recon fans. And maybe.
Here's a weird thing is this, though. like you were just saying, everybody popping out with these YouTube videos this past week, some of those same people who I have followed or subscribed to hadn't made any Ghost Recon videos since probably Motherland.
Right.
Yep.
Maybe even before.
Right.
Well, yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't heard anything from G-Money. I haven't heard anything from
stream. Those people that still cover it in a way where you get to see their gameplay and stuff like that. Not necessarily talking about the updates, but essentially what I'm saying is that the people who are supporting the game, the Bullet Catcher, the A Squads, the G-Monies, the Ghost Island Thunders. I mean, people who are who are showing the gameplay and showing the good parts of the game, who are actually showing how to, the good gameplay, how you can have fun with the game. I mean, that's all we have right now is those little pieces, right? But
Payne, the optimist in me and in Breakpoint in general, I completely agree with you. Because now, the pessimist has Ubisoft taken into consideration anything anybody has ever had to say? I don't know. I'm not putting my faith in that, but you're absolutely right. This game, 2019 Breakpoint, and April 9th, 20 or April 10th, depending what part of the world you're on right now, Andy, is leaps and bounds phenomenally better. Like 2022 Breakpoint is worth the money. 2019, no.
Oh, hell yes.
Oh, 100%. I just want to come back from Mad Mountain's original point there, because I think you made a really interesting point. So if you look at Breakpoint in the broader terms, there's some things that I think sometimes we do think about and we overlook, stuff like that. Now, obviously, when the game came out, we all know the story. It was not in a good way. As you just said, Ammo, in 2019, it wasn't what we wanted. There were a lot of people. I know you like raiding Ammo. I have enjoyed raiding in the past, just to be honest, to go and get the weapons and the gear and stuff. And I had some fun with it, and then I moved on. But in terms of where the game was and where it is now, obviously, it's a very different game. If the game that we had now was released back then, probably wouldn't have got quite as much hate. Though I do think the gear score and stuff like that is still an issue for some people, though obviously you can now turn it off, whereas you couldn't initially. But I think what we're missing sometimes is obviously where they had to go back and do AI teammates, they had to go and do all this stuff. They had to get rid of a second raid. They had to suddenly come up with more content. I think you could see the end of this game a lot faster when you look back now. Maybe not at the time, but when we look back now.
I think
if you have a look at when the PvP content ended, it was in and around the Terminator.
That's what I was going to say.
That was not long after the game release. We're talking 4 or 5 months.
Yeah,
and the PvP updates ended there. Now, if you listen now to what Ubisoft said at the 20th anniversary when they started working on Frontline, that means that they were already looking at Frontline at that point. They stopped the PvP. I think within the first few months of Breakpoint, realizing the amount of work that it would take to totally turn this game around was impossible. But what they could do is get it to a point where people, instead of having that horrible feeling in their mouth about what this game is, they could get it to a point where people went, no, actually, it's quite decent. And the second they got it there, they were done with it. The other interesting thing is obviously we're now finding out that Project Over has been in development for at least a year. I would imagine it's probably longer than that. It's probably at least 18 months. But if you have a look back, look at since Amber Sky. Amber Sky was in January 2021. We are in April 2022. So we're talking about 16 months or 15, 16 months since Amber Sky. If you have a look between now and Amber Sky, how many actual substantial pieces of content have we had in that was 15 months? One, Motherland. We did have the little AI thing, but to be honest, the AI teammates thing, all that was loads of stuff in the store. So if you think about that, there was no real content. It was just stuff for you to buy. That means, really, looking back, it's a bit similar to the PvP thing. PvP, they stopped doing the PvP because they were working on Frontline. They have kind of shown us, really, I think, that they have not really... They needed to do Motherland so they could get people in a place where they went, Breakpoint's decent now. If they didn't do that, let's say Amber Sky had been the last ever main update, people would be seriously pissed still with this game. A lot more than what they are now, because they would be saying, that's it. So they had to do something big and bold like Motherland.
I mean,
if you think about it, that's all we've had. That's it in 15 months. Just that one main update. That shows you they were working on another game this whole time.
I will say this, though, but Motherland was a very decent update compared to the other updates.
I'm not saying it wasn't.
Because that's like a whole second game now, because you still got Operation Greenstone plus Motherland now that you can literally go in and make all kind of things happen. You know,
only two things I liked out of freaking Motherland is this, and that's the ACAR weapon and the M110. Outside of everything else, they can take it back and shove it up their ass. I don't want
to go down like the rabbit hole and go on a separate topic of their mishandling of everything and talk a lot about that. But I will say this point, like what Andy said, the only substantial DLC that we got was Motherland, and did it deliver? It delivered. I think it did. I think it added a lot of life to the game, and I think we were all under the impression that they were going to add to that, and they, as we know now, just gave up on it. But I will say that I think a lot of the mishandling, the reason why Breakpoint has been mishandled, because I really think that within Ubisoft, I think that there is a structural,
failure.
A structural failure within the company, where there's a lack of communication. There's people not listening. I mean, the thing is, you're only good as a listener, as you are a leader. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if you're a good leader, you listen to everybody, you do what, everyone's been harping, telling you, giving you advice, you give the people what they want, right? But I really think that there's been people on the opposite ends of the spectrum saying, hey, we ought to make the game like this. And then you got other people on the other side going, oh, we want it like this. And they're completely negating the audience. They're completely just the consumer. They're not thinking about the consumer at that point, because I think they're constantly at war with themselves. I mean, but that's all I will say about that.
You could say the same about the community, the community in its own right, though. So, I spent a lot of time on the forums. I spent a fair bit of time on Reddit and stuff, and the same problems were there. Something that would be suggested and highly liked on the forums would be absolutely despised on Reddit. So when it comes to creating content, how do you square that circle? Because you can never win.
Yeah, you can't please everybody.
Right. No. And now, Andy, man, you're right. That you just got my brain working in a different direction. I think I agree with you. And to your point, Andy, like in looking at it in that aspect, I now have to wonder if everything we've gotten to this point was something they already had in their pocket. And then
it's possible.
Like you could even look even further.
Well, no, here I'm sorry. My brain's working, so I'm just trying to get these thoughts out coherently. Because now I wonder. You said at the PvE point, is when they stop. I wonder if it stopped as far back as Remember when we had like the battle pass type thing where the faction missions were supposed to be used to acquire all the different stuff, and they said it was broken. It was never broken for me, so they did away with it and just gave everybody all the rewards. Like, I wonder if it, even as far back then, because they did not get the initial reception they wanted, they had stuff. I mean, we could even say they had Motherland at least planned way back then. But they were like, okay, guys, this didn't get the reception we wanted. Instead of taking all of this stuff that we already have, Motherland would have been like year 2 announcement.
Well, I have to be careful because of NDAs and things like that. But I can say one thing, and I have said it on a previous podcast. I knew about Motherland a good year before it came out, or in and around a year, so which means the chances are it was probably, we're talking about that. It was probably done way before then.
Right, because it is fantastic, and it's a great addition to what has already been. So that just makes me wonder, was Terminator, was Amber Sky, was the Outcast, I forget the name of it, was that all supposed to be in year 1? Because
and they stretched it out.
The game. Yes.
I believe that is completely true. And if you think about it, what's interesting is that obviously we're going to talk in a minute a bit more about Project Over, but it's kind of like pushing the two together as such, and without getting too conspiratorial, what's quite interesting is that if you think about it, we don't know what kind of game we're going to get. I've always thought that they might go down a Wildlands 2 route, not saying it's going to be in Bolivia or anything like that, but the name will sell or bring some of those people back who didn't pick up Breakpoint that loved Wildlands. It would sell the product quite well. And I'm not saying that's what it is, but I do believe it would sell the product quite well.
Yeah.
Now, if you think about it, do you think they would bring, now that they might do, but do you think that, it's interesting that we got Karen Bowman's voice in Motherland, and she didn't say too much. Yeah, she did give you the kind of mission intros, but she didn't do too much. She didn't even make an actual appearance, did she?
No.
No.
It could be that she was already in the voice acting studio recording all of her stuff for the next game.
Yeah, I mean...
And they just gave her the lines, went, while you're here, do these, and we're going to put you into Motherland. We don't even have to create your asset. We don't even have to bother putting you in the game, just your voice, but you're here and you're recording. So let's put you in there. The other
voice, but I mean, it's very detailed. Very detailed.
Yeah. The other interesting thing that I wanted to bring up, which I wanted to get all your opinion on, was that when the news came out that Breakpoint was done and we weren't going to get anything else, the initial reaction from the community was not great, let's be fair, because obviously when Wildlands ended, we knew before it ended that we were getting Breakpoint. We knew another game was coming, so people didn't mind so much because we thought, we're getting another game. They've linked it in with a mission. Well, obviously Breakpoint didn't get any of that. What I find interesting is that the day the news comes out that it's over, all of a sudden, everybody has this leak from a source who says Project Over is the next Ghost Recon game.
Well, weirdly enough...
Do you actually think that Ubisoft themselves
very strategic
may be the ones who reached out and went, look at the reaction from the community, because they don't know a new game's coming and we are not ready or in the right position to announce anything as yet. How about we reach out to one of the world's biggest online sources for games, which is Kotaku. Whether you like them or not, you can't argue that they're not one of the biggest. They reached out and said, there is a new game and this is all we're going to give you. They leaked it. All of a sudden, so many people's opinion changed just from the comments in my videos. People went from going, I don't want anything else for Breakpoint, I'm done with Breakpoint. Let's get the new game going. Let's get it going. So many people change their minds, I think, because they're like, oh, great, we are getting a new game. Do you think they saw that reaction and they're the source? It was all controlled and given to Kotaku, because 100%. Now it's everywhere. I honestly believe that they did. Because
all you've got to look at, Andy, is look at the original leak a year ago. The original leak was taken down, within 24 hours? Ubisoft, because the guy that originally leaked this, leaked a couple of other games for different studios, and it was only Ubisoft that specifically sent him a cease and desist, effectively, and went, nah, we're pulling all this, you can't talk about it. And now, you know what I mean, a year later, it's everywhere in the space of a day. You know, we know that they control this type of stuff, so they've obviously went, yeah, it's time to release.
The one thing they couldn't do, one thing they couldn't do is put out an official statement that Breakpoint is dead, and then go and put out an official statement the following day that a new game is coming. That just would seem so random, like, because they haven't done it. It would look like they themselves have panicked.
Yeah,
and they don't want people to think they've panicked.
So it's
much easier for them to go, okay, let's let someone at Kotaku know that this game's being made. Reach out to them, and before you know it, this will be everywhere. And like I said, the comments and stuff, a lot of people seem to have no issues whatsoever now that Breakpoint is done, because they know a new game is on the way.
But weirdly enough,
I think they did. I think they did panic, and I think they saw the initial reaction that there's not going to be no more freaking content and everything. They've seen all the freaking reaction that they've gotten, and then they were like, "Oh shit, we're dead in the water."
But see,
they're like, "What can we do to rectify this? Let's leak this out to someone." In which probably they did or they didn't, but either way, it happened.
But
and look what happened now.
But weirdly enough,
they're trying to pull a freaking ace out of a freaking stack that they don't even have.
But weirdly enough, you know, like we're all saying, this leak was out a year ago, approximate. What if that same person, Ubisoft, leaked that?
Yep.
No, I agree with
Marcus. They pulled that.
Definitely an intentional action.
Yeah, they pulled that. It was September.
Yeah, but what if
6 months ago?
But see, but we all know that everybody is speculating about everything. You know, the normal people who have played the game online, the normal people who have streamed online. Somehow, somebody has gotten this information from somewhere, their local sources that they normally visit. And again, what if that was a possibility? Yeah, they just happened to find someone to pick on, saying, okay, cease and desist.
Do you know why I don't think? The only reason why I don't think that is because that means Ubisoft would have been complicit in getting someone to basically hack into the NVIDIA test servers, and I don't think they would have ever wanted to be associated with something like that.
They could have found someone that worked there, that played the game, and said, hey, we'll pay you X dollars to play the game until we figure out, and we'll tell you when to say something about a hack.
Yeah, I mean, true. I think it's more likely that this guy did it on his own. Ubisoft then asked for it to be taken down because there were 4 different projects on there. And then, because when that came out in September, that went completely under the radar because obviously they had it taken down so quickly. I think they just thought, oh, good, we got away with that. Whether they did or they didn't do what I said a minute ago, that I still believe that there is the possibility that because they hadn't told us in advance that a new game was coming, as soon as they saw that people were disappointed, because to be honest, let's say, for example, Motherland had come out, and at the end of Motherland, there'd been an Easter egg about a new game.
I would have been happy.
I think if they'd have then told us that Breakpoint was ending, even if they did it on the same date as they did, the reaction to Breakpoint ending wouldn't have been anywhere near as bad as what it was, because people would have gone, okay, it's ending, but we're getting a new game, so we knew it was ending. I don't think people would have been that fussed, that bothered. A lot of people are genuinely looking forward to a new game, especially if they are taking on board the feedback. And the one thing we can, I think, at least rely upon at this point, because if this doesn't happen, Ubisoft will be ridiculed to the point of no return. They themselves shared that image to the public of the Ghost Recon charter. It's up in a giant picture on their wall of what Ghost Recon must be in the future. Now, we're talking, this was 2 years ago.
Yep, I remember that.
Really?
I remember that picture.
They are the ones that shared this. They didn't have to do that. They decided to share this out. So basically saying, right, all the gear score stuff, all that, that's never going to be in a future title. That's all gone.
Sorry.
Oh, someone's phone going off. So that's never going to be in a future title. This is what Ghost Recon will be. And obviously that charter's there for anyone to go and have a look. You can go and have a look on Google and check it right now. And so to me, that means I believe that the new game will follow those principles of that charter. Because if it doesn't, why would you share it? Why would you bother? They know from that charter what the community wanted. And I believe that they thought, look, we've messed up with Breakpoint. We have to put it to a point where people are okay with it, but we need to move on to the next game as fast as possible. And I believe that is exactly what has happened. And it's why we've only had one significant update in 15 months. And that is the reason why we're moving forward. And what is that weird noise? Anyone else?
I hear it.
That is weird.
Sound like somebody's phone is on vibrate.
Yeah, it does sound like someone's phone vibrating. I hope it's their phone. I hope it's not something else.
I hope it's not the chest. I hope it's not the pacemaker.
I hope someone's not got something inserted. Anyway, I'll talk about that. Come on, we're on a podcast. You can do that afterwards. Jesus. Yeah, there's a time and a place for that. But go for it, Ammo. Sorry, what was you going to say?
To your point, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of good, but it's also kind of scary, because let's say they did, okay, we got to get away from this and get to the next thing as quickly as possible. Well, if that is the case, and every survey that you and Sandy did, every bit of information, every bit of input,
going to the new game.
No, hold on. It's not, because they've already rushed into it. However, if that's not the case,
that's fair.
Yes, that input will get added. I'm telling you, if they give us a Wildlands Breakpoint combination for this next one, it'll be freaking awesome. And if they delay it a year, okay, great. That just tells me you're going to make it perfect from the start. You're going to make it 2022 version. But if what you're saying is to the fact that they ditched this and rushed into something and they're already 2 years into development, then what's the point of all that other stuff? Because they're not going to go in and rewrite all the code to accommodate what everybody wanted in the surveys. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer.
No. I actually think you've raised an interesting point, though, because when it comes down to it, what's the core work that they're going to have to do on the game? It's going to be building the map, building the assets, doing those kind of things. And then all of the other bits will be worked on by smaller teams, let's say they're adding rappelling, that will probably be worked on by a few people and then implemented into the game, stuff like that. The core main mechanics of the game will be dealt with by the largest team. Now, if they are following the Ghost Recon Charter, as they said they will be from future, that's their own words, most of the things that the community has said are, and the things that we've done in surveys, are the smaller details. Better AI, I could go through, I'm not going to go through all the list, but all of those types of things, those are things that can be worked on further down the line as opposed to at the beginning. So if they are going by the charter, the charter is a lot of the things that we have talked about in surveys anyway,
Yeah.
about what the game should be in principle.
Right.
So I think we could be on to a winner. I really do think that we could be on to a winner on this next one.
Me too. But just to play devil's advocate, people complained so much about this one, Breakpoint, in 2019 because it didn't have all the stuff that it has now. So if whatever over is comes out and it doesn't include everything, just hypothetically from the surveys, that they're planning on adding later, well, they're going to get the same reception. They'll be like, what the hell? We spent all of 2020, 2021, and 2022 telling you what we want, and it's not in the new game.
Now
And
that would suck.
We're going to give you that in a year.
That would really suck.
Right. So so understand that it's the little things that can be worked on and added in. And I'm just really hoping that it's the little things that they can, oh, crap, okay, guys, we just got this feedback. Quick, put this in the code now. Not, all right, we're going to give this to you in the first year's release, you know?
Well, from what you were just saying there, Ammo, do you think, like, I can think of a couple of things off the top of my head that the community have been asking for? What is that buzzing noise? Someone take that out of your orifice and turn it off. What people have been, I've lost my train of thought. What people have been asking for, let's take one specific thing, okay? We know there's plenty, but I'm going to take one. And this has been asked for since Wildlands. Being able to rappel out of a helicopter. Okay. Yep. Now, people have asked for that since Wildlands. Now, let's say Breakpoint was obviously in production during the point of Wildlands. So it might have been to the point where they went, oh, you know, we would have had to have done this, this, and this. It's too late. Okay, fine. It was too late. It absolutely will not be too late for this game. So if it's not in there, that will prove that it doesn't matter how much you go on about something being needed in the game, they don't listen. For me, something like that. Now, there are other smaller things that you could say, well, they came up later, and, you know, there's loads of things. But that, for me, is always one thing that I've seen all the way back from the beginning of Wildlands. So if it's not in there, it shows that they are not listening to what people have to say.
That's another reason. It's another part of the reason that I originally wanted to do the surveys. So, you know, because we all knew that the feedback was bounced a bit here and there. And I always said right at the start, I said, if we give them this, and this is for all the different parts of the community, and they release, and none of that stuff's added, that is going to be the most obvious way to tell that they have just ignored everything we've gave them.
But see, here's another thing though. Now that everyone knows how Breakpoint came out in 2019, everybody who finally got the Breakpoint of 2022, now when they come out with Over, are you going to buy it or are you going to wait and see? See, now you got another situation of Breakpoint not making the money for Ubisoft, and now everybody is going to be like, okay, is this game even worth trying to even buy because it was broke the last time?
Well, first of all, just on that first point, I think Ubisoft, the one thing they are going to have to do moving forward is communicate better. And I think if I was in charge of promoting the next game, obviously I'm not, but if I was, the one thing that I would be doing in my very first, whether it be reveal, whatever it is, it could just be a trailer. They might give us a teaser and a reveal, but I think they'll make a big deal out of it, which means they'll probably have someone up on stage talking about the game. I would make sure that that person comes up and says, we have listened to everything that you've said. Here are some of the features that are in this game that you have requested. And I would run through and just in a quick montage show some of these things. A quick thing of your character throwing a smoke grenade. A quick thing of your character rappelling out of a helicopter. If you saw that in the opening presentation, most of the people that were like that, Ubisoft, screw Ubisoft, they don't help us, they don't listen to us, would go, oh my God, this is what we've been asking for. I don't think it would take that much to turn people around who are kind of naysayers as such. I think that's all you need to do. Show off the changes and show that you have listened to the community.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. And on that, really quickly, just for anyone who hasn't filled out the Next Game survey, I'm going to link it in the description below. There's about 100 questions on there that Sandy and I put together. And that is going to Ubisoft. They do want this stuff from us. So you could make a difference in the next game. The more people that fill it out, the better. So the link is in the description below. So please, please, please fill that out. And we will be passing those results on. But sorry, someone was about to speak then.
I was going to say,
Extreme Dream Team had filled out that survey, by the way. Bullet Catcher.
Awesome.
Oh, I filled it out. I mean, I laughed because I sent a note to Sandy directly about the 100 questions.
It would have been,
it could have been a lot more.
Oh, I know, but I mean, it was just a personal joke that I sent out to him.
Yeah, 500 people so far.
Okay, so I will touch base like what Ammo said. You know, the people. I think that you're gonna have a lot of people who are gonna be. You can't please everybody. You know, the whole concept. You can't please everybody. There's going to be people who are going to be like, you know what, I don't know about this game. And there's going to be people who are diehard Ghost Recon fans who will play the game in any state, like kind of like how we did. You know, we all played it in 2019. We all got it, and we all didn't like it, but we still played it. We stayed true to it. We played it, you know, I wouldn't say every day, not for me anyway, but consistently. And but I think essentially the point that I'm getting at is that I don't think they're gonna have a problem marketing the new game. I don't think they're gonna have a problem getting sales for the new game. But I do think, kind of like what Bullet Catcher said, instead of giving you a misconception trailer that's deceiving you, because we can all agree here that whenever the trailer came out for Breakpoint, everything they did in that trailer was nothing you could do in the beta or at launch.
Yep.
Am I right or wrong? And it threw everybody, like, you didn't even get the same Nomad character. The animations weren't the same. You know, they really sugarcoated it. So I think what they need to do is, if they're going to show this off, if I had to give some advice over to Ubisoft, have someone there on stage playing the damn game and talking about it.
Yeah,
showing off the animation.
I want to ask your opinion, everybody here. I want to ask your opinion on something else regards to the new game. So, obviously, when we saw the frontline reveal, I don't think people had an issue with a separate PvP Ghost Recon game. I don't think that's part of the issue at all. It might actually be a good idea to keep it separate. But obviously the Battle Royale aspect, the first-person shooter aspect, are two of the biggest complaints that I've seen over and over and over again. And they'll say that it doesn't feel like Ghost Recon, which I actually do agree with. This wasn't a leak as such, but I know it was shared on our Discord. But I think it was going back from maybe January, where a smaller online games website said that they had heard that Ubisoft Paris were working on a brand new first-person shooter. And what they'd heard was that this game could be, they didn't say it was, they didn't mention Project Over, they just said this game could be the new Ghost Recon game. Now, if this game was to come out, or they show it off, and it's gone first-person shooter, what do you think the reaction will be from people?
Now, quickly, I'll let you jump in. So the old-school Ghost Recon fans, the really OG fans, will be on the moon, because they always said that the third person when they moved to third person, it stopped being a Ghost Recon game for them. So there's a large part of the community that'll love that, but it's a double-edged sword, because there's going to be just as many that are going to be like, there's too many first-person shooters.
I don't think it's a large part of the community. I think it's a small part of the community that will want FPS, just judging by the feedback that I've seen, not just on my videos, other people's videos. I think it's probably 25% that would go, yes, please, and I reckon 75% would say no.
It all depends.
Yeah, because, I mean, look at Wildlands. Look at the Wildlands formula. Look what they did with Wildlands. You know what I mean? Or Advanced Warfighter. You know what I mean? Like, having the option to go first person, going ADS, and then getting to see your character third person, it gave more of an immersive feel, not only for if you were to unlock cosmetics and stuff like that, but I mean, it's for me anyway, I feel like it's more immersive for me. You know, third person shooter, you actually get to see everything. You know, it's too saturated for first person shooters on the market. I mean, you have first-person shooters releasing every month, it seems. And I think for Ghost Recon to stay true to its origin and to stay out of that saturated lane and to be one of its own and to become its own entity and to be something more than what it is, they need to build on that third-person tactical shooter base.
Yeah,
that's just me.
If they try and do something first-person, I'm 50-50. I love first-person shooters too. Like, if something done to the level and beauty of the Wolfenstein games, which are all first-person, they're fantastic to play. But in an aspect like this, well, if you're first-person, they're getting rid of or cutting off so much of the community who loves their gear and equipment. And okay, great, I can put it on my character, but I'll never see it. It's for that simple aspect alone.
But in the defense of that, the people you play with will see it.
Okay, here's another thing.
When I'm playing with guys like Siege,
I mean, that's what they do in Warzone.
I understand, but
I suppose. But the question
in any of those games, I don't look at other people.
Here's an option then. Give the player the option to either go first person or third person.
That's got to be the option.
I was about to say that.
Best way to solve the issue.
Because some
with the option for first.
Some people like first person. Some people like third person. Some people like looking at it from the old Metal Gear Solid type, over the top.
And you realize that first person shooter, like the options in the game, the options that are put into the games now, you can make the game for if like Ghost Recon, for example, they put the setting in the controller settings to where if you go ADS, you know, you can change your button down to, instead of hitting L2, you just press it and you stay down the ADS and you can move like that. You know what I mean? Like,
stay in first
that
person.
Option to go like full first person and actually get the full like the full experience of the mechanics as you were in third person by them just making that simple adjustment. That would be great. But like I said, I do not think it's a wise idea to stray away from the third person tactical shooter aspect and make it all solely first person.
You were
saying something. Emma, you were saying something. I want to let you finish because I actually was interested in hearing what you were getting ready to say there when you were talking about the cosmetics and stuff.
Oh, right. Well, okay. Hold on. I went off and I've lost that already. But, oh, yeah, it based so much on, I mean, just like this, just Breakpoint alone, on gear and your look and the realism of what is currently in use, what you can go out to the store and buy today, you know, or get issued, you know, today. That would get lost. That would get lost in completely first person. I very much believe that there are so many other aspects of this game that requires the third person, the cover, the concealment, the prone camo alone. Okay, so you're going to get down on the ground in first person view and tilt to your side. Well, this game, don't know, I kind of find it really cool that when you go into pro camo, you're covering yourself with dirt or snow or whatever, and you become part of the muck and the mud. You're not going to see that in a first person. You know? Mark's right, very much so. If you could choose between first and third as how you want to go through the game, that'd be absolutely perfect. But I think they would do themselves a disservice if they were to release a new game and there's no. I mean, Wildlands was that way too. I had so much fun with all the Predator gear and the wrist blades, and I understand completely what Mike's saying about how other people will see you that way. But I mean, I like looking. I don't. All those other games, especially if they're that fast paced. Now, Recon games are not meant to be fast paced. Don't take the time. I don't pay attention to anybody else is wearing, except in the end round screens, and stuff like that. I don't know. I just think it would be very detrimental, but would not be received well if could not have that third-person view of you moving through. I mean, with Breakpoint, okay, there are so many details that I don't think people pay attention to, like when he comes out of the water, shakes his hands off, and
that annoys me though.
Hold on. I know, but I'm just saying it's stuff like that you don't see. Or when he's moving through the weeds, he's pushing the tall grass to the sides or the bushes. Now, obviously, it doesn't line up and work all the way, but you don't get that.
You also see him swat. You also see him swatting at the bugs.
Bugs, right? Like, and putting, when he's running, he'll take his rifle and he'll put his hand behind the mag well and just move with it, and then reset himself when he stops. Stuff like that. Like, for what flaws the game has, they also did try and make a good attempt at some additional detail that I don't think a lot of people actually pay attention to or give credit for.
Here's
one thing that always sticks out to me.
Here's one detail. Here's one detail that a lot of people that I have told about that are really surprised about. Go look at some of the white wall clocks. Not the big giant ones, but the little ones. And watch.
Yeah, they all keep time.
They all keep time. And then you can bring out your drone or your binocs, and you can see the exact time.
All the clocks on the island keep time. You're absolutely right. You can go to the glaciers anywhere in the middle of the island. And when you're running around those glaciers, just stop and listen. Hear the glaciers moving and shifting and cracking underneath you. There's so many little things they did put good effort, detail, environment into this game. Unfortunately, it was surrounded by other stuff that threw it off that no one or everyone paid more attention to. And I think if they were to go to a first-person shooter, you would lose all of that ambiance. This game is a beautiful game. I was playing it earlier. The sun was coming up. I forget where the hell I was. I was on a ridge, and I was like, wow, what's shooting at me right now? I'm just crouched, and I'm looking out, and like, there is a lot of pretty to this game.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of
I agree.
So now here's the other thing.
Can I just ask if Justin did try and jump in a minute ago? We know he's currently working at the same time as being on, but I just wanted to see what his input was because I think he's tried a couple of times to jump in and not to no avail. I don't know if you can.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, we can hear you, bud. What was your point?
Well, it kind of all circles around what you guys have been saying too, but what if, they're kind of taking this VR style thing from Warzone. What if it's going to work like Warzone, where they've been working on this for a long time? What if it releases with Frontline as part of that game? Like, in Warzone, you have your main menu, and you can switch to the campaigns, the multiplayer. You can go to Warzone, and I was just kind of jumping because someone said Warzone. I was like, that just makes a lot of sense to me. As maybe, and with the third person thing, like if they want to outdo kind of what they've already done, it's going to take a lot of time, I feel like, to take Breakpoint, or a mixture of that with Wildlands sort of to the next level. This might be kind of an interim, something that, they hope, maybe it is first person or third person, but I don't know. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there to see what y'all thought.
It's a really good point. It's a really good point. What's interesting about that point is that quite a few, I think Kotaku, again, going back to them, also said that Frontline has been delayed indefinitely while they look at things. Now, I do wonder if one of the things they're looking at is making it third person and changing kind of what the game dynamic is, and possibly do what you're saying, Justin. We've talked about this before, that it could be attached to the main game to keep the PvP aspects separate, or just released as a free, PvP game, and there just won't be any PvP in the new PvE game. I think that's a possibility. I must admit, I haven't heard myself about any kind of complete overhaul to Frontline. Can't go into that too much because I'm NDA'd for that as well, but I haven't heard that. But that doesn't mean to say that that's not true, to be honest. I don't know.
I just find it weird that they create so many assets for a free game that would just be a random, that wouldn't flow over into something else or have the ability to expand upon it. You know what I mean?
Here's a weird idea, and true enough, it's an old game, and we all have played it, and I'm sorry to be bringing it back up again, but SOCOM had all three versions of a view. They had the third-person view, they had the first-person view, and then all they had was a reticle. So you could have.
That's a good point.
And that was a D-pad control piece.
And of course, the new Ghost Recon game, if the rumor is true, and it does come out at some point in 2023, or in the fiscal year of 2023, they could also maybe going up against SOCOM. Mm-hmm. The SOCOM rumors are still rife. There was some more last week that we are going to get some kind of reveal for it, and it's been in development for about 5 years. So it could be going up against SOCOM. So who knows? So, we don't know what kind of game we're going to get.
The bad part about that is whoever goes up against SOCOM is going to probably lose that month. Because
I'm sorry, but I'm going to be a double agent. I'm going to be playing the new Ghost Recon and more likely SOCOM.
Right, but I will probably be.
The same thing. Well, it's not going to really matter in mine.
But it's just a point. But if they were to come out and say, and I'm going to just use a rough date, if they come out next Saturday and said SOCOM is coming out in May, watch how many PS5 sales will go up.
Yeah, but they can't, because they can't make them fast.
Oh, no. Yeah, and but if you were able to go to the store and buy a PS5 right now, and they said next month SOCOM 5 or SOCOM, whatever is coming out, PlayStation sales would jump.
Well, I do think, it's being made by Sony, supposedly by Guerrilla Games.
Wow, okay.
It's always been a Sony game, but I do think it's interesting. I do think you will find, let's say, for example, SOCOM gets announced in the summer, and they say it's coming out next March in 2023, and let's say the date for Ghost Recon is not 2023, ends up falling back to say June or it still will be 2023. Let's say it's summer of 2023, so 3 or 4 months afterwards.
Now that could be a good competition.
It could be, because it means that they get to have a look at SOCOM first and realise maybe they can then delay the game if they need to, if they think, okay, we're going to need to do more work here. So that might not be a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It also gives a lot of us who like a tactical shooter, especially who like to play on console, for example, it gives us something else to play during that time period. But it also, I do think a lot of people, if they were to buy SOCOM first, they might get so heavily into SOCOM that they go, I'm not going to bother with the next Ghost Recon. I mean, I don't think that would happen. I'd buy both. I think a lot of people would be happy to buy both. But it could definitely put people off having that competition, especially if SOCOM has put in what we're hearing 5 years already of development time. I mean,
well, that was the same amount of time for Wildlands, wasn't it? Wildlands had about 5
it was. Yeah, 5 years it was, yeah.
I mean, but there was nothing that compared to Wildlands, so that's why it took them so long. If you really look at it, what was it, a 3-year window between Wildlands and Breakpoint?
I think the difference is we have no idea, and this was going to be kind of my final question to everybody before we open it up to the audience in case anyone else wants to jump in with a point. So, and this leads on to it. Obviously, we're talking about a game that hasn't even been announced. That's all rumor, though those rumors have got some depth to them, because I think one of the guys who has leaked the SOCOM rumor again and again and talked about it, and even talked about who's developing it, how long, the people involved in it, leaked some of the names that are the heads of it. He has got a hell of a lot of stuff right when it comes to Sony. I think he leaked the God of War name before anybody else, loads of other bits. So there's definitely some credence there, I think, to listen to him. But we don't know. SOCOM may not be open world. SOCOM could be linear like it was before. Now, with people playing Wildlands and Breakpoint, and those being the newest kind of way to play Breakpoint, what do you think if the next game, let's say the next game has third person and first person, so it solves that problem, but they ditch the open world and they go back to linear style missions, kind of missions on rails that are a lot more, like a kind of COD campaign, but with, even though you could play it third person. Well, I remember seeing about 2 years ago, it was probably, I don't know, maybe 9 months after Breakpoint came out, there was an article somewhere where someone said they're currently discussing within Ubisoft whether they should go back to how it was before and ditch the open world. Now, one thing Ubisoft, whether you think it's done well or not, is a different story, but one thing that they are pretty good at is an open world experience. Does it always work? Is it always perfect? No, but they're pretty decent at it overall. What do you think the reaction would be if the open world was gone? Do you think that would go down well, or would that go down like a lead balloon?
I don't think it would be a 50-50.
It would be 50.
It would contradict one of their projects that they're a part of, which is the new Star Wars game, which is supposed to be open world as well.
I would say 50-50 because I would say 50-50 because whoever wants to, and it's with anybody, and it's the same thing with all of us. If you're going to want to buy the game, you're going to buy the game.
And I think that, like I said, you're not going to please everybody. You know what I mean? Like, you're always going to have the naysayers wanting something that the other people, they always want something that the other people don't want. You know what I mean? So,
do you not think replayability completely goes out the window if you go back to that old stuff? The replayability, like to jump into Breakpoint, like this afternoon, I just jumped into Breakpoint, wandered about for a couple of hours, hit some bases, moved on there, had a walk through the woods, did this, did that.
Sound like you had a Sunday stroll.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So, but that's what's great about the game. You don't have to go and play missions. I never play missions. I've played all the missions. I don't want to play them anymore. I just go through the world. I think that's what a lot of us do. Yep. That's gone if every time you start a mission, the enemies are in exactly the same place. It's exactly the same mission, and you're playing it over and over and over. That, for me, gets boring, and I would not keep replaying it like I would Breakpoint, where I continuously play it.
Sure, because there's so many different ways that you have 360 degrees to approach a location.
Mm-hmm.
Breakpoint, and you lose that if you go linear.
Yep.
And multiple ways. You take one base, you can hit it at night, you can hit it during the day. You might have different weather. It could be raining one time, not the next time. You could hit it with your AI teammates. You can hit it on your own. You can hit it with your friends, just one friend. Exactly. All of that goes out the window if you put in linear missions.
I do have a question for Andy and all you guys too, if you don't mind. I mean, you don't mind me asking you guys.
Sure.
But if it is to be open world, would you all want to see the new Ghost Recon had a bivouac system?
Maybe if they use the same, if they use Breakpoint, maybe one bivouac per province.
Yeah. Safe house system like Wildlands.
Right. I was going to say one or the other. I don't care. I like them both, but yes, just
There's
some places
too many
go to-
bivouacs. Too many
What about
bivouacs in
this?
Breakpoint
Yeah.
that the vehicle traveling is almost redundant because you
It's
don't
not
need
just
it.
it's not just
I
that
do
there's
like-
too many. The other problem that I've got with the bivouac system in Breakpoint is it's just convoluted. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. So at least in Wildlands, if you went to like the bivouac area in Wildlands and you were at the safe house and you dropped it, there was a vehicle parked beside for you, it made sense. If you're on some like tree line in the middle of nowhere, but all of a sudden, there's nothing there, just a fire, but you can change your weapon there. You can, all of a sudden, you can get a vehicle that just appears in the middle of nowhere. Just how many times have you spawned? How many times have you had a helicopter spawn in the middle of a set of trees that you can't even fly out?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That was Wildlands for you. Yeah, that was Wildlands for you.
What I would like,
Find the two.
I'm saying like what I would like to see in there personally is kind of like a bivouac safe house system, but an interactive one. Something that kind of has a survival element to it. Say if you're behind enemy lines or what have you, and you have to go recoup. You have to go out there in the world, kill your food, make your food, eat your food, find water, clean water, drink it, in order to kind of have like how do you say, kind of like a
Survive.
ghost mode feel.
Survive.
From like Wildlands. Yeah, survive, to live. You know what I mean? If you don't do all these things, then you get permadeath. You know what I mean? Like your character, you can lose your character and whatever. You have to start anew. I mean, I think that'd be a pretty cool system to implement.
What about a safe house system where you have safe houses that you can spawn to? They're your main spawn points around the map. But if you haven't been to one for a little while, it gets taken back again.
That's fine.
So it means you've
I
got
would
to
love
go
it.
back and take it
I would
back
just-
over again, and you can't use it whilst it's been taken over.
I would love
So
that.
me personally, that what I'd like to see is in a new game. The one thing that we overlook is, apart from Breakpoint, every other situation, you're never gonna have just the ghosts on the ground on the run. So what I'd like to see is something like a CIA ground branch team running your safe points, running your safe houses. So you have one in each region. So one safe house in each region that's run by like your CIA contacts. That's how you get the weapons. That's how you get the indigenous vehicles. That's where you're getting your information for that area from. As like a local CIA handler, somebody on the ground.
Yeah, I agree completely.
And then make the weapon, not the weapons, but make the vehicles region specific too, because you could be here in Breakpoint, you could be in a bivouac all the way down in Liberty City, but get a snow helicopter.
Yeah.
Well, that's a paint cosmetic thing.
Yeah, but that's what I say. Make it region specific areas. Vehicles.
Maybe just not put the type of paints on vehicles.
Or you could have in areas that are more built up, you could have more normal cars driving around. And then in the areas that are a lot more hilly, you find a lot more four-wheel drive vehicles driving around, things like that. That would make it a little bit more interesting. So it's not just, here's the vehicles and they're just chucked about willy-nilly all over the map. That can make it
like what they did in Wildlands. In Wildlands, you had, Pat Katari and all his people bringing you the stuff. You called in what you needed.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
That could work in the new one. You just, hey, Karen, need a car. You have your CIA assets. Deliver your car, or it doesn't just magically spawn when you come in and out. Like again, combine Wildlands and Breakpoint, and you got something great.
No, absolutely, I agree with you. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to put their hand up and jump in? If not, then we will probably call it a day there. We try and keep these to about an hour and a half, because otherwise we just get carried away and go on forever. And obviously we've got a lot more podcasts to come, and what we're hoping is obviously there's more information starts to leak out and things like that about a new game, that we can talk about them as they go along on a podcast. So if no one in the audience wants to speak, I'm quite happy to kind of end it there. It was an interesting discussion. Obviously it's an interesting and quite exciting time knowing that we're getting a new game. but obviously at the same time, a worrying time because we don't know what we're getting and we have no idea whether it's, maybe Frontline was supposed to release with this game and it's going to be a first person linear mission only, which I think would disappoint a lot of people. But let's hope not. Let's hope, that, like I said earlier, they've got that charter up and they showed it off to us. So hopefully they will stick to it. Actually, Smart Arse wants to come in and say something. So we're just going to move you in. Before we finish, go for it. What did you want to say, bud?
So like with whenever there's a new Ghost Recon game, if we get one, why would we assume that they're not going to completely screw us in the ass here because they haven't listened to us before for the most part, other than Motherland. With their NFTs and stuff, what's not to say that the majority of their team leaves and we're just left with the people who don't know what to do and haven't been developing the past two games, Wildlands, Breakpoint, even further back, like Future Soldier. What's not to say those guys are all gone because they got screwed over. And with this NFTs, a lot of them, like the one guy said, 3 to 4 years for a fucking auction house. What's not to say that those guys left and now we're stuck with the people who don't know what they're doing. Don't stick true to the Ghost Recon franchise. You see with Breakpoint, with their loot system, their quote-unquote survival mechanics, which were half-baked on launch and even still are half-baked as they broke the game. They left Breakpoint in a completely terrible state. Either way, with AI teammates still, they throw a grenade as soon as you're spotted. Even if you drop the guy, doesn't alert anybody. Enemy AI is dumb as a bag of rocks. Like, what do you guys not think that the quality would improve? Or well, I don't think it would, but what's to say that they would actually improve their quality of games? Because we're just going off of, it's a new game, it would be good. But,
it's an interesting, I totally get your point. We have no idea. It could, let's be honest. Let's be totally honest here. If the game is releases anywhere in this condition that Breakpoint released, the Ghost Recon franchise is dead.
Yeah,
that they would have killed it. We'll never get another one. I think that, or if we do, it will be in 20 years' time when they decide to bring it back. It will be absolutely dead and buried.
Or until they sell the franchise.
They realise now, when it comes down to it, you would think that they had a great reception with Wildlands, and then they had a terrible reception with Breakpoint. They've tried to put it in a position where they can bail on the game in a much better position than where it was. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But is it better than when it released? Yes, I think we'd all agree with that. But what's interesting is that when it comes down to it, Ubisoft exists for one reason and one reason only. Now, obviously, there are people that work for Ubisoft who obviously love making games, and that's what they chose for their profession and stuff. And that's fair enough, but Ubisoft, the company, exists for one reason, to make money. If they want to make money, they have to give you good games. If they've just delivered a bad game that hurt their franchise, but yet they are making another one, to me, it has to be better. And the fact that they showed off the charter and they publicly showed it off in their offices in Paris and said, this is what we are sticking to. Will it be perfect? No, I don't think so. But will it be at least in the direction that we all wanted it to go? I do believe it will be. I think it will be an improvement on Breakpoint. Now, I could be proven completely wrong there, and it's a total disaster. But I can't believe that their PR and anything, the whole company would allow. Why would they put so much money into making this game for it to fail again and also kill the franchise at the same time? They are not in the business of killing their franchises. They want their franchises to thrive so they can release a new one every 2 to 3 years and keep bringing money in over and over and over again. They don't want franchises to die because new IPs are always way riskier than franchises that already exist. So the ones that you have a core community, and a community like the Ghost Recon community that is passionate about these games, you would think that they will do their absolute best. And if they come and confirm in the next, say, couple of months that there is a new game, even if they barely tell us anything about it, if they say it's an open world, third person, with an option of first person, that's all we're telling you, but that's what game we're getting, and we're listening to the charter, and we've listened to your feedback. If that's all they gave us, but said, but we've been working on it for 18 months, but we need 2 more years on it to give you a perfect game, I'd actually go, frustratingly as that would be, I'd go, all right then, do it.
But you're gonna have a lot of people saying, "I'll wait and see."
Absolutely, will you? Because they've damaged their reputation with Breakpoint. They've damaged it.
To be fair, have to go and fix it. I said this recently to somebody else. I'd said that before I reserve any judgment for the next game, because I think it was on Reddit, I saw it, and somebody's like, they've got a new game coming out. Let's make sure that nobody pre-orders now. And it's just like, well, let's at least wait until we've had, a release trailer. And at the very least, you've had maybe people like Andy or A Squad covering the alpha testing and the beta testing to at least get an honest feedback on what the game actually looks and feels like.
I agree with that. I don't think right now there's any point in saying, well, the next game's going to suck. Because how do we know that? We know nothing about the next game. It might suck, but what's the point of saying that? It could be the best Ghost Recon they've ever released. Mm-hmm. They realised all of their mistakes and they end up giving us the best game we've ever had with all the things that we've been asking for. That's the thing we don't know. So I don't see the point of shitting on the new game when we have no idea what it is or what it's about, and it could end up being a masterpiece.
I learned that lesson with Red Dead Redemption 2, Andy, when you said about, well, we just give us 2 more years, because that was one of those games where everybody's like, it's dead. They canceled it because it was delayed. It was delayed. It was delayed. No word. Then utter silence for almost a year. And then they were like, hey, guys, remember Red Dead Redemption 2 we told you about 5 years ago? Check this out. And they gave still to this day, my favorite. As far as detail, everything, absolutely beautiful, so in depth, so much detail, like an entire world to go live in, and that was after years of speculations of, it's going to be terrible, oh, it's dead, they forgot about it, they gave up on it. That game, I learned a hard lesson of, totally worth the wait. If someone says, please just give us some time, we're trying to make it perfect.
I don't think the community will mind waiting as long as they tell us officially that it's being made.
Absolutely.
I think we need an official something from them to say what the core thing is. They haven't got to say where it's based. They haven't got to give us the year that the game is set in. They've got to turn around and tell us what the game is. So is it going to be first-person shooter only or third-person open world or whatever? Tell us that it's in development and give us a few minor details of what the game is. And to say to us, as I said earlier, communicate to us, and by the way, we've listened to what you've said over and over, to all of the points that you've made, and you're going to be excited about what you see. We've got more to come in the future, and we will let you know when we've got something ready to show you or whatever. I think most people will go, okay, cool. So we can carry on playing Breakpoint, Wildlands, and all the rest of it while we sit and wait for the information on this game. I just think while they sit and say nothing, if they've said nothing to us for 6 months, I just don't think that looks good. I really don't. I would... Even if the game in 6 months' time, it's another year away from that, I'd still rather know and hear something from them than know nothing and hear nothing. I think that the community will appreciate that.
I agree.
Ubisoft has taken a big hit in their past couple titles that they released out. They've been getting, with the new Rainbow Six DLC or whatever that dropped out, from Watch Dogs Legion to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. A lot of people don't, received those titles very well. And with Breakpoint too, on the back burner, or now taken off the stove completely, thrown in the trash, I highly doubt that Ubisoft is going to cut out a title that's going to be horrible, especially coming from one of the biggest franchises besides the Assassin's Creed franchise that they have going for them. I think that there's more people in the Ghost Recon community that are losing their shit and going back to Ubisoft going, what the hell is going on? And I mean, to the point where they actually pulled Frontline, off of, they postponed it, indefinitely. They put a halt to it.
That's do you know what? That is a really interesting point that you've just made there before we finish here. But you just made a great point, because someone earlier said, I can't remember if it was Ammo or someone said, how do we know that they're listening to us? Well, you could say that Frontline is a representation of the fact that they're listening. Maybe they didn't listen because it's not what we wanted to begin with, but the fact that they haven't just gone, well, you're getting it anyway, so there you go. Here's the game, get on with it. They have obviously gone, okay, the community don't like this, we're going to have to go and change it.
Agree.
So maybe they are finally listening. Maybe they thought, like I said, I do believe, and I think every single person here would probably agree with this, they absolutely, definitely did not listen to anybody at one point. Nobody. They really did not. They did not get that they had this gem that was Wildlands. And I'm not saying Wildlands never had any issues, but I think most people agree that that game is still superior to Breakpoint. I'm not saying Breakpoint hasn't got things that are better than Wildlands, because it has. But in terms of the overall feel of the game and stuff like that, the way the missions are made, all that kind of stuff, story, for example, it actually has an ending. But those kind of things, they did not listen. And I think that they are listening now. And I think Frontline, as you just said, kind of maybe does prove that they are listening. Time will tell. We will find out. But we've been going for about an hour and 40 minutes or so. So I think it's time for us to end. I would like to say to everybody who's been in the audience to watch, anyone who's watching it now on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. We hugely appreciate it. If you want to be on a podcast, you are more than welcome. All you need to do is jump into the Discord, and you can put your name down, or you can just jump in the audience and just pop in and talk whenever you want. We are a community-focused channel, so anyone is always welcome. But I would like to say, obviously, thank you to Justin, who was on, Smart Horse, who just jumped on. Obviously, Ammo, thank you so much for coming on. I am Mike, Mad Mountain. Sandy, of course, as always. And, of course, the voice of the podcast, which is Grandpa A Up. As always, thank you. And take us out. Marcus, thank you.
This has been a Bullet Catcher Gaming Podcast. Join us next time for another exciting episode. Join us on the Discord. The Discord information is in the description. Comment, like, and subscribe. Signing off.